Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking at something huge, a really seismic shift happening in global logistics.
We're focusing on how AI is completely changing the game for a company that was, built and scaled before this whole generative AI boom even happened.
And we're zeroing in on a real powerhouse here, a logistics firm with, what, $2 billion in revenue?
That's right. And our mission for you, the listener, is to really get past the hype. We want to unpack the actual measurable economic impact and also the surprising cultural changes you need to make to pivot a ship that large.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a foundational stat, because this really sets the stage.
Oh, for it.
Our sources are saying AI is the main driver for this massive industry goal-making ocean container, shipping something like 8 to 10% cheaper in the next few years.
Which is a fundamental shift in the economics of global trade.
It is, but here's the part that really got me. This company has already achieved a very specific win. They saved 2% of their ocean freight spend while improving transit time by 20%.
And that's the thing that's so fascinating, because historically, those two things, they're a trade-off.
You can't have both.
You can't. It's either faster or it's cheaper. If you get both at the same time, it means you've fundamentally solved an old bottleneck. They shattered that classic trade-off.
So to really understand that 2% and 20% gain, you have to get the business model.
Exactly. You have to understand the philosophy. It's a scale-driven industry. They use this phrase, scale economies shared.
A Costco model, basically.
It's the perfect analogy. The bigger you get, the cheaper your costs are, and then you share those savings with your customers. And AI automation is just, well, it's the most extreme version of scale we've ever seen.
When you can use code to remove human latency and error, that unit price just plummets.
And you create this incredible virtuous cycle.
That really sets the stage perfectly. So let's get into the engine room. Section 1, AI implementation. We're talking about moving cargo everywhere, ocean, rail, truck, air. What are the specific human-heavy jobs that algorithms are now taking over?
Well, they started with the most complex stuff, the things that took immense human labor, which were data ingestion and operational optimization.
Okay.
So the first core AI application is all about that planning layer. Loading containers in the most optimal way, putting them on the right ship, lowest cost, all while hitting your delivery time or beating it.
That sounds like a really complex math problem. But I imagine the data itself, all those global contracts, is just a huge mess.
It's the single biggest barrier. You've hit on it. It's the unstructured data challenge.
Right.
When you get a new contract from a huge shipping line, it doesn't just show up in a nice, clean API. It's usually a giant, old-school Excel file.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Thousands of rows, dozens of tabs, all with these unique pricing rules. You can't just feed that mess into a generic LLM and hope for the best.
So what's the breakthrough? How do you solve that?
The AI has to write custom code. They call them parsers. And these parsers are tailored to each shipping line's weird, inconsistent document format.
So it's an AI that writes code to read messy human documents.
Exactly. And the intelligence, just to read the contract and normalize the data, that's the revolutionary part. Everything else is built on top of that.
That process alone feels like it would justify the entire investment. So where are the LLM agents stepping in and doing that, high-frequency, boring work?
This is where it gets really interesting. It's about automating work that was just too expensive for a person to do all the time.
Like what?
Okay, so they have an LLM agent for appointment verification. Before a final delivery, if they haven't been to that specific warehouse in, say, the last 3 months, the agent takes over.
And what does it do?
It uses email and voice. It literally calls the warehouse to confirm the address and check the delivery slot.
Wait, an algorithm is picking up a phone to confirm a 2 p.m. delivery.
That's the shift. Think of the operational overhead that just disappears.
I mean, that's incredible. So what are the actual metrics on this automation push?
Well, at the start of the year, they were at about 20% automation across their whole workflow.
20%, okay.
The goal was to hit 50% by the end of the year. But these LLM agents have been so successful that they've had to revise their expectations upwards dramatically.
So what's the new ceiling?
They now think 90 to 95% automation is actually achievable.
95%. But in an industry that's governed by physical things, port congestion, weather, unions, customs, things an AI can't control.
Yeah.
Where is that last 5%?
That last 5% is the human-in-the-loop stuff. The really complex, usually regulatory or catastrophic events.
A fire on a ship.
A fire on a ship, a port closing because of a geopolitical crisis, or a super specialized customs declaration. But see, by automating 95% of the routine work, you free up your human experts to focus only on those high-value, high-risk exceptions.
That jump from a 50% goal to a 95% possibility.
Yeah.
That is a massive cultural vote of confidence in the tech. Okay, let's pivot to section 2. How does all this internal efficiency actually help the customer?
The first thing the customer sees is just instant data access. I mean, logistics is full of valuable data on time performance, cost per sec you name it. But getting it has always meant, writing complex SQL queries or building custom dashboards. It took analysts.
A huge time sink, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, customers just use natural language. They can type a question.
Like what?
Show me my cost per ton to Singapore in Q3. Or what was the route variability for my electronics last month? And boom, the system just generates the charts and tables.
And what has that done for their internal teams?
It's been huge. It's cut down the time their account managers spend just pulling routine reports by about 25%.
So the account managers can actually give strategic advice instead of just being data monkeys.
That's the idea. But the real game changer, the thing that got them that 2% cost cut and 20% time improvement, that's the scheduling solver.
Okay, break that down.
It's an operational machine learning model. It takes all the contracts, the sailing schedules, the prices, the route variability, and it finds the single best path for the cargo.
But the complexity must be in the disruptions, right?
Yeah.
Things always change.
Always. Every single week, this company sees about 2,000 containers get canceled by customers. A factory's late, cargo's not ready, whatever.
2,000 cancellations a week. That has to create logistical chaos.
It's a nightmare for a human planner. But the software handles it with something they call the cancellation loop.
The cancellation loop.
Yeah. So when a customer cancels one container, the software instantly scans every other container scheduled to ship globally. It finds one that was supposed to leave maybe a week later and just moves it up into that empty slot.
So it's real-time optimization.
Constantly. It runs 10 times a day, just replanning, reslotting inventory. And that is how they got the 20% improvement in transit time. A human could never, ever manage that at this speed and scale.
So walk me through that. For a small importer, someone who really relies on things showing up on time, what's the real-world benefit?
It's predictability. It's efficiency. I mean, if you're that small importer and you need parts to arrive on Tuesday for your assembly line, a 20% drop in variability means you have fewer stockouts.
Right. Fewer expensive last-minute air freight orders.
Exactly. And less cash tied up in safety stock. It just makes your whole supply chain more reliable. It's like an invisible infrastructure upgrade for your business.
And connecting the dots. The next step is to have an LLM agent use that solver as a tool. Right.
That is the inevitable next step. The agent basically becomes the user.
No.
It runs the optimization on its own. It spots an opportunity, and then it proactively contacts the customer.
So the AI would call someone?
Or email them. It could say, hey, we found a faster route that saves you $100. Is it okay if I bring your container in early? That's fully autonomous logistics.
Which brings us to section 3, culture. Why is a big, established company one, founded way before the AI age, suddenly positioned to win against all these new AI startups?
It's the incumbent advantage, and it's incredibly powerful. It's threefold.
Right.
First, they just have a massive scale of data to train their models on. Second, domain experience. They know which little annoying problems are actually worth solving.
Unlike startups who try to boil the ocean.
Right. Incumbents know the tiny features that deliver huge value. And third is distribution. When they build something, thousands of customers can use it on day one.
And the sources say their real secret weapon was building their own modern tech stack early on.
That's crucial. A lot of their competitors are running on old third-party software they bought. But if you don't own the plumbing, you can't integrate AI this deeply.
So let's talk about the human side of that, the cultural pivot. They realize this couldn't just be a top-down thing.
And that's where the hackathons come in.
Which used to be more for fun, right?
Exactly. Hackathons historically produced a lot of, toys, fun experiments. Now, 90% of their hackathon projects are LLM-based. And the key is these projects are being funded and pushed into the actual product roadmap.
They're going from proof of concept to production feature almost immediately.
It's a massive shift. But the most profound part, I think, is the upskilling program for the non-engineers.
Tell me about that.
It's the core of their bottom-up strategy. It's a formal 90-day training program. Your non-engineers, the domain experts, the people on the front lines who feel the operational pain.
The freight forwarders themselves.
Yes, they get 1 day a week to learn AI skills. That includes building low-code apps with tools like Streamlit.
And for the listener, what is Streamlit?
It's basically a framework that lets someone who isn't a hardcore developer quickly build and share data apps or little web interfaces.
So you're turning domain experts into automators.
You're turning them into automators of their own jobs. The promise is they go back to their teams 10 times more productive.
But that's a tough sell. You're essentially asking your most experienced people to automate themselves out of their current job. How do you get thousands of employees to embrace that?
It takes very clear leadership. The message has to be that the company isn't going to shrink. It's going to absorb that new productivity by taking on more volume and by moving people into those higher value exception handling roles.
So it's not about cutting heads, it's about elevating skills.
Precisely. They started it in their Amsterdam office to prove it out, and now it's expanding globally. They know that to get to 95% automation, you need the frontline experts to drive it.
That sets us up perfectly for the big picture. Section 4. The economic and philosophical implications. So that 8 to 10% cost reduction goal, where does that number come from?
The sources break down the cost structure really well. If you look at the total bill an importer pays, about 10% of that cost is just the labor inside the freight forwarding layer.
Just the coordination paperwork.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can automate 90% of that labor, then an 8 to 10% reduction in the total price of freight, it suddenly looks very realistic. It's a massive deflationary force on global trade.
And this, of course, brings up that big societal question that always comes with automation. If you're driving labor costs to zero, what happens to all the people?
The philosophy that's articulated here is, well, it's stark. It's purely economic. It says that the primary role of a company is not to employ people. It's to deliver goods and services at the lowest possible cost for the benefit of society.
The entity that employs the fewest people and has the lowest price wins.
And that, in theory, raises the overall economic tide for everyone.
It's a view that makes a lot of people anxious, so we should probably anchor this in history. This isn't the first time this has happened.
Not at all. I mean, the worries we hear today are just echoes of the past. Think about modern agriculture. People asked, what will all the farmers do?
Or the printing press and the transcribing monks.
Exactly. What history shows us is that humans seem to have an infinite desire for more things, higher quality, more customization, that always creates new kinds of work we couldn't have foreseen.
We just shift from transactional labor to something more creative or managerial.
You can't satisfy the human soul. We'll just want more new products, and that will require more complex systems to manage.
So given all that, what is the ambitious future vision for how global trade should work?
The vision for 2035 is that logistics should just become a utility, like the electrical grid.
You flip a switch, the lights come on.
Right. You shouldn't have to think about it. The idea is that companies should just focus on making great products. This digitized system will handle the global movement of those goods through code, through APIs, through voice agents.
And the goal is to cover, 95% of all container trade with their own tech by 2028.
That's the moonshot.
It's a profound shift in thinking, from managing chaos to just providing a seamless utility. What's the final piece of advice for founders or executives trying to navigate this?
The advice is critical. Focus on your price per share, focus on control, but crucially, do not solve your problems by just hiring more people.
Don't throw bodies at the problem.
Right. The warning is that money just wants to spend itself, and that leads to bloat. It slows you down. The advice given to founders after a big funding round is to actually implement a 90-day hiring freeze.
The hiring freeze right after raising money?
Yes, to force that cultural discipline, to force everyone to find code-based solutions instead of just hiring another person.
That brings us to our final synthesis. It feels like the two big takeaways are, 1, AI is driving these non-obvious gains. It's faster and cheaper. And 2, the real challenge isn't the tech, it's cultural. It's about empowering your experts to automate themselves.
And if we pull the lens back even further, the sources draw this fascinating parallel to history, to the Axial Age, around 500 BC.
Okay, the Axial Age.
Yeah, that was a period that saw the sudden, widespread adoption of impersonal systems, specifically standardized coins for trade.
The move away from a barter system.
Yeah.
And what did that do to society?
Well, when you have impersonal coins and long trade routes, it leads to a breakdown of old local trust systems. You don't have to know your neighbor to do business anymore.
Right.
And that massive social disruption coincided almost perfectly with the rise of the great philosophers, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Confucius, Socrates. They all emerged to provide new moral frameworks for this new impersonal world.
And the implication is, we're in a similar moment now.
Exactly. The source material suggests that AI, by automating this core economic utility and making the global economy algorithmic, it's creating a similar loss of trust in the old human-driven systems. We figured out the code, we figured out the automation. So the provocative thought for you, the listener, is this. Who will be our modern-day Socrates or Confucius? And what new moral or philosophical framework will you need to adapt to a world where the engine of global commerce is run almost entirely by code?